So, good evening. Tonight I'm joined by four times world champion Chris Bracher. So, welcome, Chris, and thank you for talking with me this evening.
That's all right.
You grew up around the racing circuit, your dad racing in the Formula One, and your mum being involved in banger racing.
Yeah.
What was it like growing up around this scene, and did it influence you in becoming involved?
Yeah, it just probably seemed quite sort of natural and normal to do, really. I think from as long as I can remember, I can always remember my mum or my dad sort of racing, probably more so at like Lutterworth Banger Club than probably the Formula Ones and stuff to begin with, because my dad did the Formula Ones for a good probably 2 or 3 years before he bought the mini stock for me to do, and then we sort of, he kind of did both, took me and raced himself, and then he just sort of raced. But yeah, it just seemed, I suppose it seemed the norm because it kind of didn't know any different with it. Quite
So,
natural.
so how big an influence would you say your mum and dad were for you?
Um, Massive, really, because I think probably more so at the Banger Club. My mum won, and my dad as well, but my mum won a lot there. Um, And then with the sort of my dad doing the F1s, it was always sort of good to go and see. And then seeing sort of the racing, you look up to your mum and dad with it, and you kind of want to do the racing as well. So yeah, hugely really.
Okay. So you started out in mini stocks. What was that like?
It was good. I think one of the main reasons mum and dad wanted me to do the mini stocks was probably just to keep me out of trouble, really, and mixing with the wrong crowds at school and so on, to sort of at the weekends keep me more at the racing tracks than probably down the park, and getting into mischief that way. So, but yeah, it was brilliant. Mini stocks, met some good friends in there. I mean, Stephen, my best friend, we met in mini stock, Stephen Treherne. But yeah, it was brilliant doing it as a kid. It was very lucky.
Did you have always intended to move to onto race in the V8 formula after your time in the mini stocks then?
Um, not straight after minis, because when I finished minis at 16, I didn't do V8s till I was 18. So I had a good 18-month away from racing, really. 18 months, I think it was. I just got a bit sick of it, really. Doing mini stocks. It was most weekends and everything, and then Stephen was doing the legends, so I went racing with him. And then my dad did more racing himself with the F1s. Um, so I kind of had enough of it at that point. And then my dad won a Rebel in a raffle, and then he said, "I know, do you want to have a go in it?" Because he weren't really interested. He had one go in it, and then I had a go in it, and it was good fun. And then he said about the V8s, he'd fancy doing the V8s, and I was like, "Yeah, I'd all right and get this. Well, I'll sell the Rebel and buy V8." And then we looked around V8s for sale. We couldn't find any at the time, so Nigel Parker built the V8, brand new, which is the same shale car I had all the way through to the end, because then you've had sort of two cars. Um, but yeah, like I said, at the time, from doing minis, weren't really. I don't know. I had enough of racing, and then left it, then went back to it, and then you forget what you miss, and then sort of got into it, and then did that one, really. Yeah, because I think everyone who does the V8s wants to do F1s, but budgets and so on and so forth. The V8s for me was like probably the next sort of best thing.
So, I mean, that really covers then why you wanted to race in the V8s after doing the mini stocks then.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay. So, what is your most memorable moment from those early years?
But in the minis or the early V8s?
Yeah, in the minis.
In the minis, um, it's quite negative, really. But in the minis, at the time, it's like you stand back, it's easy. Hindsight's a wonderful thing, but you look at it and you think, I probably could have won more if I tried that a little bit harder. And you know, at the time, sort of my last year of racing in the minutes, because I did the whole lot of mini stocks. I never won a final. I never won a
Right.
final. No. And I finished superstar in minis, but I think everyone finished superstars when they're 15, 16 at minis, I think the age. But there was races I felt I should have won if I just tried or just hit that person to go through. And I don't know, it was I wasn't as probably competitive as I was as I got older, really. And then and then the Stoke National, which is like their gold top race. We had a good weekend before, and then because head gaskets used to be really common in minis because the compression was so high, and we didn't change it because the car running so well.
Yeah.
So we turned up, and then the head gasket went on the rolling lap, and just sort of
Yeah.
disaster. So we used kind of me and my dad, we used minis as a massive learning curve. So when I raced V8s, my dad always had, instead of rebuilding the engines at the end of the year, he always used to rebuild it a meeting or two before the world final. So always had a fresh engine
Right.
for that.
Right. Good experience then. Carry through.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, no, definitely. It was more that, to be honest.
Okay, so during your V8 career, who would you say your main rivals were?
Oh, I think quite a lot. Um, the main sort of rival was, for the longest probably time, was probably with Kevin. Really, I think you know Kevin's like the main man at it all the way through. I think Kevin was. I think Chris Ford. I raced against him, but it weren't really sort of fair comparison because he was at sort of the top of his game and I was still sort of getting better. I weren't really sort of, I don't feel I was really competition for Chris at the time. Um, yeah, definitely Kevin. Mark Allen, 2010 for the points. It was close between, well, I felt it was close between me and I got a second in that and he won it. It was. And then, but yeah, I think Kevin's got to be sort of the main one. Sort of like the main sort of rival everyone wanted to be. He was always the benchmark, Kevin was. And then, yeah, Mark Allen as well. Chris fought now and again, but like I said, Chris was a bit before me when he raced, and then Craig was always there as well. So I had quite a few.
Okay, so I mean, going through that, then, is there any memorable moments that actually stand out for you from that time?
Um, yeah. Again, going back to sort of Chris fought. I always probably my favourite race, my hardest race was against Chris Fort. Um, we it would have been two, I think 2011, no 2010. Near the end of the year, I'd won the world final that year, and then we bought Matt Smith's car, which I really struggled to drive that to begin with. I don't know how he got it around, Matt, but I really struggled with it to begin with. And then we swapped cars for Skegness, me and Chris did, and I was in his car, which was really good, really easy to drive compared to that one. What we had off Matt, and then he wiped the floor with me with it. He did, and then as much as he used to say the cars were this lot there in the final, I think I got third and he won it. But yeah, it was for about 5-6 laps. I was trying as hard as I can. I was hitting him, going around, as much as I can. He was me, but that car, I drove it as well, was so hard to drive. And now he managed to pedal. He just pedaled it around better than what I could. And for me, it's a memory that sort of stuck out in my head that you've always got to keep pushing the car and pushing yourself because you always come across someone like a Chris Fort or a Kevin. You on days like that, sorry, but yeah, the memorable race was definitely that one for me against Chris Fort at Skeggy.
So it sounds like, your time with Chris Fort, you learned from him. Do you think that's because he was at the end of his career as well? You were early on in your career. So did you learn quite a bit from him?
Yeah, what one thing I learned from Chris and Ivan, they kind of almost come as a package at the time. Then their attention to detail, it's, you think from the outset you might not think that they take it that serious, but yeah, Chris with attention to detail with setting up the car and stuff, and filing a brake pad so it's perfectly straight and there's no glaze marks on it, making sure everything was free, and sort of, yeah, it was just you know, when he was doing the cross weight or the inside weight and he was setting the car up, you know, if it was like 0.2 off a percent or something not quite right, and you'd go like before racing with him, you'd be like, oh yeah, it's close enough, that'd be fine. Where he'd be like, no, it's got to be right, it's got to be like this, you know.
Bit of a perfectionist then.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you know, later on, Craig Smith took to the team. Can you tell me a little more about this time? You know, what that was like?
Yeah, when Craig, because Craig obviously bought the car off my dad, what Chris was using, and then the Craig sort of, you know, he did a lot of it himself up our place or my dad's garage in there. But yeah, it's sort of very different, really. Like I said, it's Chris was the master at the time and knew everything, and then sort of me and Craig were sort of new to it, and then yeah, I don't know what if Craig learned anything from us, or you know, that's for him to say, for me to try and push on him. But yeah, yeah. They were different, but for different reasons. But it's hard to say one was better than the other at the time, because one was new into it, and when, you know, me and Craig were probably racing 5 or 6 years before that, but racing against someone like Chris and his attention to detail was just phenomenal, really. But yeah, it was good fun with Craig. You know, we had a lot of sort of banter and stuff on the way there, and it definitely
I think
lightens
there's
the
a bit
mood.
more of, you know, because you were similar in your time in career. Do you think, you know, there's a little bit more rivalry and a bit more banter between the two of you, or would you say
I
about the
think so.
same?
I think the other thing with Craig, sorry, with Chris, I probably, you know, looked up to him more as sort of like a big brother as well.
Yeah.
You know, he sort of like out there where sort of like me, you know, me and Craig was probably more friendly than
Yeah.
that, really. When I say with Chris, it was more you sort of looking up to. It felt like a bigger brother.
A bit like
It
an
did.
icon.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So so I mean, you covered then, really. You know, I was going to ask you about the differences and similarities between the two drivers, between Chris and Craig. So, you know, is there anything that, you know, you'd expand on in that, you know, rather than just the experience side and, you know, Chris's attention to detail? You know, I mean, is there anything in racing style, you know, that you would, you know, compare about them?
Um, you know, they're both very aggressive when they need to be. I think they did, like I said, yeah, they've probably got quite a lot of similarities. I still don't think, hand on heart, I still don't think we've seen the best of Craig yet. I still think Craig's got more to come. I just, you know, if he got his head down, knuckle down, I do believe he could improve on what he did then.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, it's Craig's probably a bit too jolly at times. I try to be diplomatic, I suppose. But yeah, I think he can be a bit misunderstood. He can. He's great lad, heart of gold. He has. But yeah, I think, yeah, if Craig put his mind to it, I think he'd be a really good challenge for people.
Okay. You won your first world title in 2010, and you went on to win 3 more in consecutive years. Was the first world title the most important to you, or do you think the fourth was?
I'd probably say the second, because when you win one, you can argue it was a fluke, you know, and because there was a big crash at the start, and obviously I wasn't the fastest man on the grid at the time, you could almost argue it was up there. I felt there was more pressure on me on this second one than than probably any of the others really. So the second one kind of sort of sealed it, like as in it was more relief. It more felt relief. It did. The second one did, because like I said, the first one is, you know, it was like a straight off, you know, big pile up, first bend, single file restart, and then sort of drove off and went. But you know, people who didn't finish it, it was the quickest guys at the time. Like Chris Fort was obviously one of them. Matt Smith was very quick that year as well. Again, probably one of the favourites. Mark Allen as well, he was on pole. So, yeah, so like I say, you could almost argue there was quite a bit of luck into that one. But then the second one, I think that's like fifth row, sixth row on the outside as well. So that was shale as well, with a stronger surface. So yeah,
They prefer doing the world final on shale then.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I've always struggled with tarmac.
Okay. Do you think there was more pressure then to keep winning titles because of your success?
No, not at all. No. I think in some ways, I think there was less pressure on me. It felt that, especially after winning the second one. You know, yeah, definitely, because the third one, it was more about the national points that year, and yeah, so that was, you know, my main thing in 2012 was to win trying to win the national points. It was, so yeah, it was a little bit easier, I think it was. And then the third one, going to that one again, I didn't feel like there was pressure on me because I'd already won 3 before. It was, and I wasn't really expected to win it from where I did.
So do you think that the expectations were lower, so that's what lowered, you know, the pressure for you?
For me as probably an individual, yeah, you know, it's yeah, you know, like I said, the second one felt like massively pressured. It was, and then it's actually it's just coming to my head, but I used to, like I said, rely on probably Chris and Ivan for their sort of guidance, and then on the second one at Bellevue, they didn't sort of like turn up, and then, you know, and you're like, oh, you know, is the track look all right, or this, that, and the other? You know, I did my prep earlier in the year, but at Bellevue, as a track I always struggled with. So we changed the gearing for that track, you know, earlier in the year. But then on the day, I was almost waiting for the guidance of Chris and Ivan to go, right, I wouldn't do that, I'd do this, or with the car setup. And then they was like, no, we're not coming. We know, we think you need to do it on your own. So I don't know, maybe that sort of, after that, I did feel a lot better, a lot confident going into the next ones, because I felt like I know I could do it.
Yeah, so I suppose that, you know, would that then have made it feel like it was a bit of a sweeter win because you'd done it by yourself, you know, you set up and yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
But you're not the first world champion in the family, are you? Your mum was ladies world champion, is that right, in her formula?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, probably the most competitive person I've met in my life. It's football in the garden or anything. He'll just go for it like a cycle or a run as a kid.
So do you think that you got your winning ways from your mum then, or your dad?
I think they're both, neither of them like losing, but I think probably my mum. I think my mum's sort of like will to win. Yeah, probably from that. Yeah, probably. Yeah, definitely. I think I get yeah. Like I said, I'm a bit more placid as well. I think I get that from my mum.
Okay. What does it feel like knowing that you've made history? You've been the first driver to actually win 4 world titles in a row. How does that actually make you feel, you know, when you sit back and think about that?
I feel very lucky, really, and sort of privileged that, you know, I've had the opportunity. For one, I'm lucky that my mum and dad wanted to do the racing and put me in it, and then that sort of, you know, pay for it, really. But yeah, very lucky, really.
Did you ever expect that you'd actually win 4
No,
consecutively?
no, I didn't even, hand on heart, I never thought I'd win one. You know, I think before I won anything kind of major, it's like for me, I always wanted to win the European, because I always felt like not everyone probably tries as hard in the European, which is, I know, is a load of garbage, 'cause, you know. But yeah, in my head, I was always like, oh, you know, I want to aim for like, you know, the top three or something like that. But no, I never. I know I'd only ever um five world finals. I mean, I won 4 of them, but I've only ever finished 5 because I was just so lucky enough.
So actually, you know, out of the 5 that you've won, you finished, you've won 4 of them. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I always felt quite, you know, that's where everyone feels cheated at the time or unlucky, don't they? But you know, so but
I think
like I
that's
said, I think a lot of it goes back to the mini stocks. I think, you know, in the minis, I thought, no, I'll take the second. I know that's good. That is where then you sort of leave it as you get a little bit older. You're like, oh, if I would have tried, if I would have made that move. You know, there's always, oh, I wish, if only, where every kind of race or championship I went into and entered, I knew I couldn't have done any more. So even if I spun out, hit the wall, made it a right hash of it, I know I couldn't have done any more. So I'd rather be like that than like, oh, you know, I finished second. It's his fault for this, that, and the other, or that. Where, you know, I know if I come up behind a car in a world final, if you watch from any of the videos I did in championships, I would, first opportunity I got to hit that car, I would hit it to move it. I won't
so
just.
quite aggressive then to push
You
through
have to
then.
be, because you know you may never get that opportunity again to win a world final or
Yeah.
any kind of major championship.
So you obviously had other big race wins. So which of these stand out to you the most?
What other than the world
Other
finals?
than world finals, yeah.
Um, European at Buxton was good. It was good fun. Yeah, it was good fun. That was in the heats. I think Kevin had a bit of an edge on me. That was 2014, so I'm not been sort of racing that much that year, and then he gave me a right good sort of slap in the second race, like really put me in hard, rattled the wall around there, and I thought, I'll get you back for that. I did, and then come a European race, and I thought, I said to my dad, I said, if I don't win it, I'm having him up there.
So either I win it or we'll take us
Yeah,
both
and
out.
then, but yeah, so I don't know if Kev just sat behind me or what, but I went on and won it, and I think he got. I'm pretty sure he got second. I was like, I thought it was probably one of the hardest I've ever been hit. It was down the hill as well. It was my own fault. I was sort of poking him throughout the race and sort of stuff, you know.
Giving him a little bit of a nudge.
Well, yeah, with Kevin is, if he got into a routine, you couldn't catch him. He was the best person on the brakes by far. He's just, yeah, it was.
So, I mean, what are the memorable moments from the sport stand out to you? You know, is there anything else that really stands out to you?
Um, I think one, the sort of like the sort of the friends you make along the way and the laughs you have with people, especially sort of near the end as well, when sort of taking it as serious, trying to win points and so on. We like the Skeggy weekends used to be a really good laugh. You know, you meet up with people and sort of let your hair down a little bit. Good weekends with sort of like Mike Lomax as well. And then I always remember probably one of my favourite ones is I was on a stag doing in Newquay with I think it was Lee Robinson's stag do, but there was a Skeggy weekend as well. So I did the stag do sort of I think Friday night, and then I drove from Newquay up to sort of Skeggy to race, and then the engine let go in the first race, and so then blew up. Oh no! And
So
then
you can go that way.
yeah, exactly all that way, and then sort of dad going, we'll take it out, and then Matt Smith, we borrowed an engine off Matt, and then me and Matt drove to Loughborough from Skeg, fitted the engine that night. Everyone in the sort of pits outside was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was, and then we all went out that night, sort of drinking, having a laugh. Even went skinny dipping as well. I remember that. I also remember Carl Boswell in the nightclub sort of fall off this massive like stage just straight down. It was awesome. It was, and then next day sort of racing. But yeah, it was that sort of side of it was brilliant. It was, yeah.
Okay.
It was,
So, sounds like you'd probably still be a bit hungover for the racing the next day.
yeah,
There.
oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. Are there any drivers who you had respect for and admired in the V8s?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Like I said, obviously, sort of Chris was one of them. Kevin, I think it's amazing how he can still stay motivated to race. Mick Rogers as well. When I first started, he was sort of doing it. It was good. Neil Stutchbury, I can't believe he didn't win more. I think he was a bit. I think he was very unlucky, if I'm honest. But yeah, he was really good to watch. Quite similar to Craig. My feelings are of a driving style. I watched Mark Allen. He was good. He was. The Parkers as well. I think Sam Parker was very, very good. It was a shame that they left. I think Sam could have done a lot with V8s. Probably, yeah. I mean, at the time, when he first sort of started, Sam, he sort of come on the scene, sort of exploded, and then sort of like pushed everyone. Didn't care who it was. Didn't matter. Didn't matter if it was for 8th place, it would still bury you, and to try and go for the win. Quite a fearless lad, really. But it was a shame he left, because I think it'd be good. Be good to see him race against now, especially someone like Ollie Spencer. I think that'd be quite similar in how they kind of race, and both very fearless with it as well. But yeah, it'll be
Right.
good. Yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
So who, I mean, you've mentioned quite a few names there. So, I mean, out of those, or, out of all the drivers past and present, who would you say your all-time top 3 V8 drivers are?
Oh, top 3. Um, that's an odd one, that is, isn't it? Top 3. I think I didn't race with Adam, but obviously I watched him a lot,
Yeah.
and I thought he was very good. I'm gonna go for. I feel like I'm gonna get pulled apart for saying it. I'm gonna go Kevin first.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go Kevin first, Chris, then Adam. Really.
Yeah. Some good drivers there, yeah.
Yeah.
During your career, did you have was there a track that you favoured more than others? Was it, a favourite or worst track?
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely. It's
Where
hated Belgium
how
as a
you
champion. Yeah, we won a World Final there. Hated that place. Skeggy, I struggled with Skeggy and Birmingham. Hated Birmingham. I won a World Final there as well. But yeah, really struggled with those two tracks. Favorite tarmac was Buxton. Love Buxton
Yeah.
and love Coventry as well. Really like Coventry.
Yeah. And it's close. Well, it was close.
Isn't it?
Close by. But also during your career, would you say you who would you say you enjoyed racing against?
Um, for like a laugh, I don't know, like that's probably a bit disrespectful, really, but I really enjoyed a lot of fun racing against the Boswells,
All right.
Donut and Monk, because they were just nuts. They were nuts. They were, and you'd be like sort of like going through the field, and then you just compare behind them pair, and they'd just be thrashing the hell out of each other. And then you try, and if you got in the middle of it, you're doomed, really. But they were like proper sauce. Like
So
Stockcar lads, really, they really didn't take any prisoners with
the
it.
drivers to stay out the way of them.
Oh yeah. Like I said, it's like I think if they left each other alone, they'd probably clear up. But yeah, there was really good fun to race against, and then sometimes when Craig would be in the mix of that as well, it would be good. Yeah, it'd be good. And then it would be good then. Probably Kev would come near us and probably just put his all in and sneak through and be dead smooth and drive away from us. But there was really fun people to race against Boswell.
Unfortunately, your career ended quite suddenly after a serious crash during the British in 2014. Can you talk us through what happened then?
Yeah, it was. I already made my mind up. I was packing racing at the time. After 2012 was, like I said, it was a difficult year for me, sort of personally. And then I said to my dad when I was on course, it looked like I was going to win the points. I said at the end of the year, I want to pack up at 2012. So obviously my crash was 2014. So I already kind of made my mind up I was packing up, and then I said to my dad, like, I'll race them, but while they're for sale. So my dad priced them really high so they wouldn't sell. That's what I believe. I think
Dad
it's on him. So, I think over those sort of two years, I think I probably only raced probably 10 times over the 2 years. I think 2013 probably five, and then the year after 2014 as well. But I just sort of trying to mop up championships I'd not won. 2014, I won the European that year, but I never won the British. I was trying to win the British as well. And then just if you see the actual crash, it doesn't actually look that bad. But I was knocked out. I was unconscious from it. I come round and I was hysterical, would probably say it, really. Quite embarrassing, really, because I was just completely in bits. Couldn't really understand it all. And then, sort of rushed into. No, I wasn't rushed to hospital then. I was in the back of the St. John's van, and I don't know, really, just kind of felt like the world was falling apart when I've been knocked out before and I was always all right. But and sort of after that, after the crash, then sort of went to the hospital, and then I just tried to brush it all off, as in, oh yeah, I'm fine, it's fine. I was all blurred vision and everything else, but I was just so embarrassed because I was so hysterical and upset, which I've just not like that normally. I've been racing for years. You're supposed to be this person who's won these races and stuff, to be singing in bits was just embarrassing for me. And then that night I went home, and then I remember Emily saying I was quite slurred in my words. I was. She was like, you need to get checked out, because obviously I was discharged because I acted all right at the hospital.
Yeah.
And then we had sort of a bit of an argument in the morning, and I was like, right, fine, I'm going to work. And then I went to work thinking it was like 8:30, but it was like 6 in the morning type of thing.
Right.
And then at that sort of point, then I then realised, it's not right here. And then went to the doctors, and they sort of like asked you questions, all your things, and they said, "How did you get here?" I said, "I drove here." And they said, "Where's your car?" And I couldn't remember where I parked my car.
Right. So you short-term memory.
Yeah, that's it. I just had severe concussion, which it was that sort of played a big part of it. And then I got had a CAT scan and an MRI scan and so on, and then we sort of found that the back part of the sort of brain kind of dropped.
Right.
And then you can have an operation if you wanted to just basically kind of machine the back part of your skull away, to give you the more sort of clearance.
Right.
So, as we sort of made a joke about sort of shaky brain, because it was like if it was quite easy to be almost like knocked out in being contacts. But the doctors, I asked the doctor, is it still safe for me to race? Can I still race? And all these things. And he didn't say like no. He was like just advised you sort of not to, really.
Yeah.
So I guess I kind of I suppose you could also argue say it was almost a perfect excuse for me to pack up as well.
Right.
because I was kind of dipping in and out of it. I wanted to leave it because I felt like it's kind of ran its course. But it was once the cars were gone, they were gone
Yeah.
as well.
So do you
So
think that accident, do you look back now and go, yeah, I would have done things differently if I'd known how serious it was, in my first assessment of going
um,
to St. John's, or, do you think that's still,
I
you
think
know,
sometimes the problem is you with men, they don't want to be seen as kind of weak, do they? And if you don't feel right, get checked out.
yeah,
Where you didn't want that because it felt like it was a weakness. Like you could be knocked out. You're hysterical. You're upset. Why are you upset? You're never
yeah.
upset. And I think that's it. But yeah, definitely. If I'd have known then what I know now, or yeah, without doubt, yeah, definitely.
So, I mean, how did stopping racing at the top of your career actually affect you, moving forward?
It was a big hole to fill. It was. I thought I'd be fine. I honestly thought I'd be fine because I wasn't doing every race anymore, so I thought I was sort of going out quite lightly anyway. Um, but then everything just kind of stopped really. Um, no one really wanted to know you anymore because you wasn't racing. Where before, when you was racing, everyone wanted to know your business and what you're up to and everything else, and what you're doing. And then you sort of go from that to nothing. No one really kind of messaged you, how you was afterwards. They did to begin with, but
Yeah,
then after that, is no one really seemed to wanted to. Felt like no one really wanted to know me, which I know that's a lie, but I just kind of at the time it was quite hard. And then I took up golf for a bit, and then wasn't the same kind of buzz and everything. And then I do a lot of running, you know, and then did a couple of like 10K races, and then like did half marathon, and then did sort of bits like that. But it was so hard to try and find anything remotely fulfilling compared to sort of racing as a hobby anyway. It was because it was such a big part of my life. As a kid, I'd raced all the way. I'd raced, and then with my mum and dad racing as well, and then sort of go, and you think, oh, I'll be fine. No, I won't do that. But yeah, it was really weird. It was difficult. It was, and yeah, just looking for something to do or to try and get a buzz, or the excitement of racing is when it stops, it stops. You see, and it was really weird. Wasn't very nice. You still miss it now, I suppose. You do. You
so I
these
mean,
little scratches at the time, aren't you?
yeah. I mean, I think that's it at the moment. A lot of drivers at the moment, they're not racing because of this current obvious situation that we're in. So I suppose, I mean, yours was, I know it was more permanent, but I think, do you think that drivers at the moment are probably going through that a little bit, that everything stopped?
Yeah, I presume they would. Yeah, because like I suppose over Christmas and stuff, when they're sort of starting their projects with their cars to go racing, they're like, well, is it worth it or not? Because I don't know when we're going to be racing. It's like the championships last year wasn't run what would normally ran.
Yeah,
So I think people probably would have lost a bit of enthusiasm for going into this year, because like, I want to do this, and then they're like, well, the pessimist in people will be, oh, I don't know, I don't know. There's no point starting yet because we haven't got a date yet. We don't know when we're going to race yet. We haven't got a fixture list yet. So I think there is that kind of sort of struggle with it, and you just almost think, what's the point?
yeah.
What's
I suppose, I mean, I'm thinking like Ollie at the moment. Ollie Spencer. He won his first world title for him back in 2019, and then it all came to a stop. So wondering if there's any kind of advice that you'd possibly give, to somebody like him. That yes, I know it's going to open up again, but we're still not sure when. So is there something that I don't know, maybe words of wisdom from you that
wisdom? Yeah, I think that's it. He's got to stay motivated, which I think the type of person Ollie is, and the competitor in him, it will anyway, and you can't let your guard down, because you're going to have other people who will want to be taken away from you. So kind of use that as a motivation, because, you know, if he does drop his guard, it's like Kevin is still there, and he's so experienced, and he won't. He'll still keep getting his car ready and going everything else. He might say to your face that it's not, but it will be, because it's him.
Yeah,
Because he wouldn't race. You know,
yeah,
if he wasn't motivated, he wouldn't race. So he's got to keep. You know, you've got to keep pushing, and you've got to keep that motivation. And just remember that if you're not working on the garage at 9, Kevin probably will be. You know, or the next sort of young person coming up will take it. So, you know, if you want to stay on the top, you've still got to be in the garage and doing that, and being on the internet researching new ways, and, you know, talking to experienced people as well. That's one of the key things. Listening to other people's experience, especially some of the F1 guys. With any new idea anyone does with V8s has been done in F1s,
mm,
because, you know, 70s, 80s as well, everyone ran leaf springs. You
yeah,
know, for me to get my next step out of my tarmac car, I spoke to Maury and Ryan Harrison. You know, any idea I had with the V8 what to try, making the back axle sort of move across, so I can adjust it throughout the meeting with leading trail. You ask someone like Maury Harrison, and he'll go, "Oh yeah, we did that," and then you know, and we've got all this experience out there. Which, if you've got a new crazy idea, if you speak to one of the guys who've been doing it a long time, they'd have done it or just seen it. You know,
Do you think then on that basis, F1s and V8s, could work closer together maybe, helping F1s passing on that information to, V8s, or, collaborating.
I think so. I think a lot of them would as well. I think, you someone, people say such as arrogant or he's arrogant, but until you actually speak to the person, 9 times out of 10, they're not. You know, they're
Yeah.
not at all. It's definitely, if you speak to some of the older F1 generation who ran leaf springs, the amount of information you can draw from is brilliant, and a theory you can get from them as well. And then, I spoke to a lot with, when I first started, Nigel Parker. He gave me an idea. Obviously, Chris and Ivan, especially Ivan as well. He gave me a lot of ideas. And then again, with near the end with Murray as well, and Ryan Harrison, getting information from them as well. And then you kind of then do your own thing, kind of know what works, and then you can sort of take a bit from their theory and what they did, and then with theirs, and sort of move it around, and then you get this sort of knowledge yourself then, and a way to do it. But I think you just listen to people as well.
Yeah. I mean, going back to, how your career ended, and, and how you struggled with that, I think you freely admit that you did struggle to start with that, I mean, what and who do you think helped you move forward from that time?
Oh, Emily, really. I think,
Yeah.
yeah, oh, definitely, yeah. She sort of helped me through it. Really, very tolerant as well at times with it as well, especially with trying new hobbies as well. And it just, yeah, I think, I mean, at the time, me and Emily had probably only been together about a year at the time. But yeah, so yeah,
A
yeah.
good rock by your side then.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah, she definitely helped me through that, and sort of still does now.
Okay. So I understand you're now helping your dad, Dougie, who I believe has started racing in the UK modified class.
Yeah.
And at times you help some of the current V8 drivers with setup of their cars. How are you finding that?
Um, Setup was always probably the biggest enjoyment. Well, yeah, it was probably the biggest enjoyment, because it's the most rewarding when you get a car that handles bad and to make it good. And with the UK modified, especially, the things you can adjust on that it's amazing. You can do what you want to it. Move it. You can just move everything. Everyone who does V8 knows how hard it is to adjust anything on there. Well, you got these, you can adjust everything. All your pickup points, suspension, everything's movable. You can move your roller sensors around, your pickups. Yeah, it's just so easy. Not easy, but if you only want to try something a bit crazy on a V8, you got to chop it all off and make it.
Yeah.
Well, with that, you just slide bits up and down. Oh, it's brilliant. Brilliant.
So I'm really excited about it.
Oh yeah, that'll definitely. Well, she just set up. I love it really. With the V8s, when I first left, it sort of got a few messages from people who were set up and stuff, but now not so much. Not so much. I used to get the odd message from Matt Bernard about little bits and bobs. I think they were normally on a wet tarmac meeting what I'd try. But not so much now, really. I've kind of helped Dave a little bit with his setup.
Yeah, he has to says he said, oh yeah, he says it's handling a lot better. Chris has
That's
looked
it.
at the car for me.
I think it's a bit psychosomatic for Dave, though, isn't it? I think say I touched it, I think I'll go quicker.
I think so. I think it's the fact that he trusts you because it was your car.
Yeah. Done your car, yeah.
And I think, he does say, he says, oh, I do say that he could, he could race it again if he wants to. I'm doing it.
Yeah. I think contact sports is a move now.
So, do you think you're still interested in the V8s, or is that chapter now closed for you?
Oh yeah, definitely still interested and still see how people are doing. I can look now how John Brown's doing, Matt obviously as well, and then Craig. If he's had, he normally has a really good meeting or a really bad meeting. So yeah, still look at that, and obviously the great Ollie Spencer as well.
So, are there, are there any new drivers that you've got your eye on that you're thinking, oh, they've got a real talent that, I think I can see them coming through and, and taking some titles there. Anybody that excites you that way?
The new sort of drive, I've not been to a meeting to sort of look at that really. I'm probably a bit more of a sort of a fan of the ones I used to race against. Both of the Spencer brothers, I kind of root for them, and especially Ollie. I do, but the new ones. But again, Ollie's really good, isn't he?
Yeah, so, do well.
So not so much really. I've not really seen any of the new sort of ones. I mean, I did like it when Luke Moore was racing it. That was good to watch. It was. I don't know if he's coming back or not.
No, I'm not sure.
Might be wrong.
Okay, so do you think he'll have a go at racing again? Maybe a different formula, not V8s?
Never V8s. No,
No.
I don't one sort of close in the past. I wouldn't win the modern V8 formula now. I think that's still sort of past it. I think people have raised the game a bit more now. So, but no, not in V8s. Maybe in the modified or something. As long as the dad sort of bankrolls the fuel in the truck and everything else. And then probably
That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. So.
Well, he's got one. You could probably borrow it.
Well, he's got two. He's got
two now.
Yeah.
So, I mean, going back to V8s, where do you think you see the future of the V8s going? How?
I think if the board can stay kind of consistent with what they're doing, and sort of keep the same board members for a good few years, I think they'll go in the right place. The worry about cost, again, I know. I'm pretty sure that one of the reasons why Sam and Darren Parker sort of left it was because they were saying it was just getting so expensive to sort of compete. You need a Doug Nash box. I know when you had a Doug Nash box, they didn't, they sort of lasted forever. I mean, I know that was the theory, but I think for them, it was like the cost, and you got to try and keep the cost as sort of low as you can, because I said earlier, the price of fuel for the truck is probably one of the biggest expense, and you've got that and then something else and something else. I think you've got to try and keep the cost as low as you can. If you're new to any sort of formula, the startup so expensive, and then if you upgrade something each year, as a new person who's starting the formula would have to then buy that as well.
Yeah. Okay, so what improvements do you feel that V8s could implement, that would improve the formula and make it more successful?
I don't know on that one. I don't know really. Like I said, I think it's just consistency really.
Yeah.
I think that's it. I think it's good what you guys are doing with with Facebook and the interviews and the question of stocks and stuff like that. There, I think it seems to be very media focused now. So you almost seem to have to get in everyone's kind of news feeds to keep it going, to almost bring like I don't know, a title sponsor or someone like that in to try and sponsor the series, to push the series, to try and get it out more, to try and get new drivers in, because there seems there's a lot of good cars out there for sale, cheap
Yeah,
cars,
yeah,
but top cars, cheap, and quite surprised that none of them have sold.
yeah. I think,
Really,
maybe current climate might have something to do with that at the moment. But yeah, I think,
I think so. Hopefully, once the season gets going,
yeah,
I think it'll be a good push to try and sell the cars and get new drivers in, new blood in, and not losing your drivers you've got,
yeah,
because it's there's if you can afford to do Formula Ones, the draw for Formula One is just massive, and you just want to keep those drivers in the V8s. And I think if your top drivers stay in the V8s because they've got a good challenge, they will stay in it. Where if they're getting to the point where I'm racing every week and it's almost the same drivers, or the same one or two drivers who are winning, they'll go, "Oh, you know what, I can, I'm a blue or a red in this, I might be able to be a yellow in an F1 or something."
yeah,
And I think it's just trying to keep your drivers what you got in there, and not just swan off to Formula One.
yeah, yeah. Try and keep hold of them. Yeah,
I think so, definitely.
yeah. So you've got a young family now yourself. Do you think that they will be involved in stock cars in the future?
No idea. Um, I don't know. We've got two boys, Otto and Albert. Otto is 5. He said he wants to be a racing driver, but not till he's 18.
I think
Um,
I think Granddad's bought him something already, hasn't he?
yeah, he's got his little stock car. He had a go in it once and sort of crashed it, and then got out of it, and oh, I don't really want to go on that again. But I think Otto's more. I don't know, I might be wrong now, but he seems more of an engineer. He loves building Lego. He can
Yeah,
build anything sort of Lego, and he just sort of loves the mechanics of things. But again, he's massively competitive in a running race or playing football or anything. So I don't know. And Albert, the younger one, he's just wild. I don't know. I don't know what he would do.
I
He's
think if
just
Grandad has something to do with it, there may be some racing in there.
maybe, yeah, maybe. Like I said, whatever they want to do, they can
Yeah,
do. We'll support them.
sure. Is there anyone who you feel deserves a special mention or you would like to thank personally?
Yeah, yeah. Obviously, um, mum and dad for sort of bankrolling it all and putting up with it, really. And sort of the years for that. So Emily was sort of standing by with the difficult times, and it's just, yeah, there's a lot of people really. Chris and Ivan, there was a lot, a lot of help. Andy Laird for all the big talks before a world final, telling me exactly what I was going to do and everything out there. So that support, used to give the race plan before we went out. Um, I don't know, really, it was a bit on the spot with that one, but yeah. And the V8s were great. The
Yeah.
V8s were were great. Met a lot of good people along the way, really. So thanks to everyone in the V8s, really, for making it pleasurable while I was doing it.
Thank you so much for spending the time talking to me this evening. I wish you all the best for your future. And congratulations on the family and hope things go well.
Brilliant. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.